ninth episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week of September 2010. This episode is titled Out of My Data. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, cloud computing experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me, my co-host, who should stay out of my data, Justin Edelstein. How are you doing?
Great, and promise you I want nothing to do with your data.
It's a little bit disturbing. I was just catching up on some of the articles, and it's a great mix of two things that I don't want mixed together, which is, well, actually, we'll talk about it in a second.
Me and your data?
No, Google Health and Google Data.
I was noticing our agenda has two very tied together items.
So we'll talk about, we have a couple things on the agenda today. We'll talk about the new Twitter interface. It got some new features.
Cool.
And then talk a little bit about some Google news. There's three pieces that we should probably connect up with. Google Me is coming out in the fall and how that might affect the other social networks. Google Health has some updates. And then following right along there, Google's fired its second employee for actually breaking into secure data and then using it for illicit purposes.
So don't put your health data in Google.
So let's get going with, first of all, let's talk about the new Twitter. Actually, I had a surprise. I mean, unlike other releases of other types of services, usually there's a lot of talk before it happens. Like Facebook does, it's coming.
Well, that's because they got burned in the beginning.
By saying things were coming.
Well, no, by just pushing them out there and getting backlash from people, like saying, why didn't you tell us?
Right.
You have to tell us. I think it's one of those things that, in the beginning, Facebook was small, and, well, Twitter's not very small, but they haven't changed the interface a whole lot since a long, long time ago. I mean, it's been virtually the same, just a news stream down the middle. With a box on the top and some stuff on the right.
What's interesting about this is it's moved much towards their applications.
Yes.
And clearly what's happening is that people are using the applications more and more. I'm sure they see through their APIs, whatever. I don't work for Twitter, so I don't know. But my guess is they see what percentage of users are using it through. I mean, you use Tweety.
Yeah, I very rarely go to twitter.com, the website.
Right. And then
very rare.
The new, as I was my picks of the week a couple weeks ago, was the iPad app. Which does a lot of like crossovers. It basically leaves you in the version, and this new version of Twitter actually does that. You don't leave it. So you want to look at an article, it comes there, and everything pops over. A lot more jQuery type stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the iPad application. Yeah. It's like they took that design and said, "All right, let's make this into a web app," and it really does feel now more of a app feel to it than it does a website, right?
Yep.
It really feels like there's moving pieces and there's embedded videos and embedded pictures and better feature sets and shortcut keys and all sorts of things that apps have that make you feel comfortable in client apps, and with new technologies in front end web technologies that allow for cooler manipulations of interfaces. It's cool to see Twitter not really play catch up, but bring some of those things that are now available on the web to their product.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be interesting to see if people will go back to Twitter because of it. I find
I can't.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that I didn't see in this release, which I'd love to know if they put in. If you know, tweet us up. Which is that they the multiple accounts. Very few people that I know, well, people who tweet a lot generally don't have one account. You have a couple accounts.
Some personas.
So you might have a couple different accounts. You might have more than one account. I might have more than one account. Twitter doesn't have the ability it's all browser-based, so you log into your account and that's it. I would love for Twitter to ability to jump between accounts, like what the apps give you, which is sort of what I think the killer part of the apps, either Tweety or Hootsuite or Seismic Desktop. They give you, I can have as many accounts as I want. And so if I were Twitter, that'd be the next thing I'd be looking at, is how do I let people log into multiple accounts at the same time? Because that's sort of the one thing that's keeping me sort of not on the client. I don't have enough browsers.
Yeah.
Any top feature, one feature that you thought was good, bad, indifference?
Well, I like shortcut keys because, especially for like refreshing your stream, I'm constantly, like in Tweety, I'm constantly Command-Shift-R, right, to refresh, because I follow so many people, it's just constant news cycle. That's one thing that I really liked, and I also like just, it has a subtle sort of minimalism look to it. It's always been very minimalistic, but they've even made it simpler and less in your face, like subtle moves to make it even more inviting for people who say, "Oh, I don't tweet."
Right.
Well, that's okay. You could sort of come
Right.
to Twitter and search through it, or look for news, because that's where people post a lot of news, and breaking stuff happens on Twitter.
Twitter still suffers from, and maybe they'll figure it out in the next release. Twitter still suffers for me on the overload status. It's kind of the way I feel about Facebook. There becomes a level of I can't take any more information in, and there's still no good way that I found to mitigate that information. So I feel like Twitter's one of the things. If you don't look for a day, you could have missed the best tweet of the world. You say it to me all the time. Oh, did you see that thing I tweeted? I'm like, well, no, I didn't see it because I wasn't on for the 10 minutes that would have been in my stream. Right? And yeah, I could put alerts on it, but then who am I going to put? I put alerts on everybody, then I just get inundated with it.
No, just me.
Yeah, just you. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, good stuff. Twitter, new look and feel. Check it out. It hasn't actually populated to all my accounts, so
I haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, so
I've just seen the videos and the screenshots and over people's shoulders.
So looking forward to it when it comes.
I am.
Yep. So let's talk about the Google news. I think probably let's get over the first one first, and then move down the road because I think they make sense. First is that Google Me, they the long talked about sort of Facebook for Google, right? It's actually a lot of the stuff that that they said they were going to move from Wave, which we've talked about the Google Wave before, is going to move into. They're saying it can move into Google Me. A lot of the lessons they learned. So Eric Schmidt sort of said it's coming this fall. Well, fall is really
right now.
So, I mean. We'll talk a lot about it when it comes out because, again, anybody who's Google and does anything, it's going to be a massive play. Thoughts on it taking over? Would you be in on day one?
Knowing myself, I'll be in on day one.
Still haven't been in Ping yet.
That's because I haven't downloaded iTunes 10 because I'm a little lazy.
Yeah.
But knowing me, I'll be in on day one like I was with Buzz, although I was opted into Buzz. Didn't have to opt into it.
But you've abandoned Buzz, yes.
Huh?
I've
totally abandoned Buzz. They don't seem to do social very well.
No.
Google. They don't get it for some reason, and it's weird because they should. You'd think that they would because they're very good at getting adoption on certain things, but they don't have a lot of sticky social things, and they seem to spread it really thin. There's Buzz, there's Reader, which has an element of social. Yep. I mean, there's Orkut, which nobody uses outside of Brazil, and they seem to like spread it around. And maybe this will be a more focused effort.
Right.
Picasa has an element of social in it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm very hesitant to say it'll be a success because I haven't seen them do this successfully in the past. But I will try it.
I'll tell you the one thing that I think they're always going to fail at. And it's not for them, but it's that. I think what makes social networks interesting, or at least the next social network interesting, is how it ties into the other social networks. And if you make one by yourself, and Google has a problem with Facebook, right? They don't get along. They're not friends. So they can't make the Facebook connector and the Facebook includer and the...
Right.
So...
The friend feed.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff becomes like... People, I think, are weary. The 500 million people that have gone into Facebook now, or the whatever millions of people that have gone into Twitter... Getting kind of like, I don't want to go to the next one. I don't want to go to the next one. Even like Ping. Okay, it had 1 million users in the first day, but...
That's because they had iTunes.
Right.
They just said, oh, look, here, press this button.
1 million people could have clicked on the thing just to press on it and set up their profile. So, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. So the second thing that they came out with, Google Health, which I actually signed up for Google Health when it came out.
Me too. Haven't used it.
I hadn't touched it. I forgot about it completely. Yeah. It's not under any of my menus. I had no idea where it was. So... Google Health came out. It's a...
This is another reason why the social network could definitely flop, because they don't do... You have a Google account, and they don't do a great job of surfacing things that they want you to really use within that account. Like, they have a little bar at the top of google.com, but, I mean, I don't even go to Google anymore. I just use my browser search bar, which is searching Google, and then I get my results, and I am off to the page that I find.
So they've done a kind of update. They've integrated with other things. I actually went back and took a look, and you can kind of set tracking goals. You can import all the stuff you could import before. Okay, interesting update. I think it really moves more into this Google Me, Google Health, move more into the next article, which is that Google has for the second time now fired an employee who had access to data.
Bad.
And I know you're shaking your head. I thought maybe I got the
Terrible.
article right. But not only are accessing data, because I'm sure the accessing data happens more often than not, but then used it and went in and then against minors and was playing pranks and looking at people's Google Voice. I think this is the stuff that, other than when we talk about Wave and putting on features and taking them away without kind of consulting with the people who pay you. This is the other thing that the cloud haters don't like, which is to say, this is the problem, right? If you have all your information in the cloud, well, that's one cloud and one place to attack, as opposed to if it's all in 1,500 data centers around the country. Well, yes, those 1,500 data centers might have bad security, but you still have to tackle all 1,500 of them. And it's still tougher to do than go for one, which might have the best security. So it's kind of like the Fort Knox.
But this was internal.
Right.
This wasn't an external person trying to hack into, a company's data center. This is a internal person who had access to something that maybe they shouldn't have had access to in the first place. So maybe the right security protocols weren't in place inside. And that's something that I can see cloud haters or not cloud evangelists like ourselves talking about.
Yeah.
They would say, well, look, you're trusting this other company to house data that should be extremely secure and not accessible by an engineer. I mean, the fact of the matter is, whether when you're a large enterprise and you have developers on staff and you have your own data center, those people have access to that production data. Someone has access to everything, right? Someone has access to it. It's just a matter of those are your own employees versus that's a service provider that you're paying.
Right.
It's the same problem.
But then you as a company always have someone else's data, so you have the client data. So we worked for an enterprise class company that had client data, and if our employees messed up and then got rid of their data, we always got in trouble. And there were times where tapes would fall off of trucks and FedEx wouldn't be delivered, and things happened that made our data exposed at the time when we worked there. And they hit the news, and that's what you say. You don't want to be on the front of the Wall Street Journal for this. Is it bad? Yes. Is it going to happen? Yes. Does being Google mean that it happens and blows up 10 times more than it would if you were some other little tiny social site with 2 pieces of data in it? Sure. Good that they found out. Good that they got it. Bad that it's happened twice. Don't like things happen twice.
Yeah, bad that it's happened twice. I mean, it seems like they're even going to put in more protocols and more checks to look at logs and et cetera. I mean, you have to. Yeah. If you're going to collect the world's information and organize it, or at least...
They know my blood pressure.
They do. Or at least charge companies money to put their data in your data center, then you have to be able to... be able to say that it's secure and no one in here internally to Google is going to use it in any sort of way that would be malicious. Right. I mean, they might have to have access to it to do some crazy patch maintenance work that you don't have to deal with, which is great. But still, the fact that they are able to access it and then have used it twice now is definitely a
in malicious ways. I guess worse would be playing pranks and doing sort of like going after people's voicemail logs. Again, it does make you start to think,
get phone numbers,
what stuff's in there, and we put
so
a lot
much
of
stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, they have everything. They have your search history. They know what you're looking for. We were just talking about the other day how targeted the Google ads are getting on websites. Like, we're both big Jets fans. We're both cloud computing people. That's a lot of the stuff that we're surfing on the web or searching for is related to, a couple of different topics. Like, I know the other day I was on a website. It was just a random sports website, but it had a Google ad on it for iSIMS, which is a cloud computing recruiting application that I am working on a project with, and I was researching it online. I was like, whoa, that's amazing.
That's DoubleClick, by the way.
And it's really amazing because I was like, wow, how'd they do that?
It's funny because the technology has been around, like DoubleClick. I used to be into ad surveying and stuff like that. And DoubleClick had that technology, and what was the major complaint about them was that they have hooks into all these different websites, and they can put a cookie on you, and they can track you from website to website, so they can do exactly what they're doing now. I mean, 8 years ago, it was a huge problem and people were all up in arms. I think everybody's idea of like privacy and cookies and whether websites are tracking them, everybody, to some degree, no one cares anymore.
Yeah, social networking has sort of thrown privacy, and I know it's not the same thing, but it's sort of
it's opt-in almost.
Yeah, it's taken people's guard down for sure because they are sharing more information than they've ever shared about themselves before in a open forum.
So they feel like they've put it in there. So then when it kind of comes back in their face that there's stuff up there, they're like, well, it's okay because I'm putting it there. I guess.
I gave them that.
Interesting way of looking at it. So one little programming note.
A programming note.
Programming note.
This is almost official.
Do we have a note? We need a sound for that.
Like,
all right. Programming note. Justin actually posted, or you posted a.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. Posted a article on Winter 11 and the stuff that's coming out for Salesforce Winter 11. We are such a big Salesforce shop that we feel like we should do a full podcast just about Winter 11. So we're going to be doing that next week. So if you saw the blog post and then you're listening to the podcast and you're going, why are they talking about the blog post that he just posted about Winter 11? That is because we were talking about it in a full episode, probably a long one, 30, 40 minutes. So we'll keep this one short just to offset.
And we didn't talk about Salesforce today because of that. We're gonna save it all up for next week.
Right. So let's get to the CloudFocus App Pick of the Week.
We need a sound effect for that too.
We need another sound for that.
We need a lot of sound effects. Rolls right off your tongue.
It does. CloudFocus App Pick of the Week. I'll let you go forward.
You'll let me go first?
No, I'm going to go first.
You're going to go first.
I'm going to go first because it's right in line with what we're talking about.
All right, go on.
So, something that we've actually been using and now is almost 100% adopted by Arkus, which is you're talking about social networking, and I was talking about how people don't want to adopt the next social networking craze, as it were. So there's one craze that I'm probably way late on, but I was earlier than you, so I feel good about that, which is called Foursquare. And if you haven't heard of Foursquare, basically it is a combination of a social network, a status update, and a game. And again, like most things, I never noticed I don't hear about these things until they kind of hit the iPhone or like it becomes an app and the app starts going crazy. I'm like, why am I, or I started seeing it on Facebook, statuses saying checked in with Foursquare. So then I go, well, what's Foursquare? Oh, it's an app.
That's the network effect.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about it.
And what's good about, well, let's talk about what Foursquare does. So basically using your BlackBerry or whatever.
Internet-connected device.
With GPS, you then go to an area, you have a profile, you have friends, same stuff, opt in, and then you check into places, and you get points for checking in. If you check into a place that no one else has checked into for more times than not, you become the mayor of that place. And you get badges for checking in, so you get kind of funny. They have a lot of funny ones. There's actually a whole website that describe all of them and how you get them. Swarm if you're with a place with more than one. If you go to we were at a Jets game in the preseason, and we got Super Swarm. Actually, we were at it was a soccer game.
Yes.
We got Super Swarm, which is 250 people checked in the same place within a certain period of time. So what's fun about it, what I like about it is because it is kind of a game. You get points, you get badges. That's fun.
But there's also, they figured something out, which is the commerce side of it.
Right, which is when you check into a place, since it knows where you are, you can actually, it'll show you specials nearby or things that are nearby that are advertisements, and it's kind of, I think,
or
it's
even
really
at the place where you've checked in. I've had that happen to me before, where I checked in at a bar, and the bar had a special on Foursquare where once you checked in there, they knew you were there, and the screen would pop up and say, walk over to the bartender and say this, and they give you a free shot. It was very interesting.
And did you say it?
I did.
And did you get a free shot?
I did.
Excellent.
It was really interesting.
I've seen ones where if you're the mayor, I was up at a place, Upper West Side, if you're the mayor of a place, every time you go, if you're still the mayor, you get to have one free margarita of your choice. Like, it was, so I think
it's not all about drinking either.
Yeah, no, the stuff, we are in Times Square, we see stuff, I see stuff all the time. And what's interesting is it's overlaying the place that you're at. So wherever you're at, it'll then say, look, there's something going on over here. So really good. Foursquare, I'll say Foursquare for the iPhone, but there's also the web app. And now with HTML5 and geolocation built into HTML5, which is interesting. I think this type of stuff could extend. It does a really good job of connecting with others, so you can check in and tweet and Facebook at the same time, or not. You can
I choose not to do that.
You can do off the grid. It's kind of fun if you're at like a Jets game. You can check in on Facebook, and everybody sees that you're there. You don't have to post your status twice. Anyway, check it out. Foursquare.com. iPhone, BlackBerry, Droid. I'm sure, maybe not. And yours? What's yours?
Well, you went fun. So I'm going to go business.
Oh. Debbie Downer.
Yeah, Debbie Downer. You guys can turn the podcast off now. I'm going to choose a product called 10 Rocks Time and Attendance.
Okay.
So 10 Rocks is the name of the company, and the product that I'm picking is the Time and Attendance solution. It is a cloud-based, basically a way for you to do timesheets in the cloud.
Okay.
You can have employees that have, full, weekly timesheets, check in for hours, align those hours to different projects. It's good for like a services organization that might have, different projects that they have going on, and they can book their time to different projects.
Yep.
Cool part about it is that it integrates with Salesforce really well.
I've heard of this Salesforce thing.
Yeah, so if you have just to dive into the weeds a little bit, if you have an opportunity that closes, and it creates a record in Salesforce for that opportunity to book time against. But you're booking your time in 10 Rocks Time and Attendance, and then it brings that data back into Salesforce.
Nice.
Which is actually a pretty cool little feature if you're running a sales and services organization where you have to, whether you have part-time employees that need to track their time. And the even cooler part is when you close that opportunity and you create the project, that goes into 10 Rocks as an option to book your time against. So you don't have to double enter data in either place. It's just part of the workflow of how you run your business.
Does it work with custom objects?
It works with the objects that they give you, which are custom objects.
Okay.
So the objects that are created are custom objects that hang off of an opportunity in Salesforce.
Nice. Cost?
It depends on how many users and which level of integration, and I'm not even going to give a ballpark because they probably wouldn't even want me to. I mean, it really is all about, if you're
Does it start at something? $10 per user per month?
You know what? You're going to make me... You always ask me the cost, and you always pick free stuff, so it's easy for you, which is kind of lame.
Super lame.
I mean...
Anyway, Foursquare's free.
You're pretty lame. I'll jump in there for just a second and see... what they have
well,
here.
It's 10 Rocks time and attendance from 10 Rocks, I assume.
Yeah, from 10 Rocks.
It's spelled, not said, and it's rocks with a OX, not a CK.
Yeah, they have a time and attendance product. They have a project workforce management product. You can go to their website and check it out. They even have a free demo and a free white paper that you can download.
Love stuff that's free, like Foursquare, which is still free.
I can't find a price, but give them a call.
I'm sure someone would.
Or go on the App Exchange and view the demo.
Cool.
They'll let you check it out.
Alrighty, well, if you want to check out more, this is again a short podcast because next week will probably go long, as it were. So if you want to check us out or follow us in any one of those social networks, including Foursquare, we actually have Arkus. Our company has a.
You can check in at Arkus.
You can check in at Arkus. We do frequently.
Yeah.
I am still the mayor. And so you can always check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/ArkusInc or twitter.com/JasonMAtwood or twitter.com/JustEdelstein. We're at Facebook, facebook.com/ArkusInc. That's ARKUSINC. And if you're a fan of the podcast, which we know you are because you're listening, or this is the first time, welcome. A great way to stay on top of the podcast because we do record it different times during the weeks because we're busy individuals and maybe don't have time to check into other places. Go to iTunes and subscribe on iTunes. So go into iTunes, type in CloudFocus Weekly, and then subscribe there. And then it comes down instantly. So we publish it. Whenever we publish it, it comes down. You can put it on your iPhone, your iPod Touch, your new iPod Nano, whatever you want, your Shuffle, or your Zune player, which I'm sure you have. And that's great. There's also a way to review them there. We love the reviews. Reviews are great. If you can leave a review, a little quick thing, how much you like the podcast.
5 stars or 5 stars?
5 stars or above.
Right.
Only thing allowed. So that's it. So thank you for joining us for CloudFocus Weekly. Remember, until next time, enjoy those cloudy days.